I absolutely love the fact that this movie has sparked such a wonderfully layered conversation, just like Miss Billie Holiday. I just absolutely love the fact that, she's been gone for goodness, since 59, and we're still talking about her. Her song is still relevant. And as much as they wanted her to shut up, she wouldn't shut up.
Say a prayer for
Hello,
me.
everyone. Good evening. Good evening. As people start to come in, so that was a video clip of Billie Holiday singing "Strange Fruit." And tonight, I will be joined by my guest, and we will be discussing and reviewing the Hulu biopic, "The United States" versus Billie Holiday. So first, I would like to welcome my guest. I have with me Tamora this evening.
Hello.
So you may recognize her from the Valentine's Day flyer. She was scheduled to be with us then, but she couldn't at the last second. We really, really, really tried. She really tried, but we have her tonight. So we're happy to have Tamora with us. Yay!
Yay, Tamora!
Tamora. And then we have our returning guest, Miss Anjuli. She is back with us tonight. So excited and looking forward to having this conversation about, Miss Billie Holiday. So I will start. And let me expose my ignorance, because prior to watching this movie, I knew none of this. I knew absolutely nothing, of this story, and was shocked by a lot of it, because all I knew was, hey, it's Billie Holiday and she's a Black singer and she was a good Black singer. And that's about the only thing I knew. So I guess my first question is, like, were you even aware at all of this story?
So I knew about the song "Strange Fruit" because I've heard it, and I had never listened to it. I had never read the lyrics. And then I watched that movie and I was like, okay, I get it now. I get why that song comes up whenever her name pops up, generally in a conversation, and how impactful it was supposed to be. But the rest of it, and the drug use. I knew about the drug use. Like, people allude to that all the time. But when you talk about Billie Holiday, or when I've heard about it, it's usually been in reference to, oh, it's so tragic, she was on drugs. Oh, it's so tragic how her life ended. But none of it talks about, like, how the song was supposed to reflect what was happening at that time, and the authorities' efforts to try and stymie, like, not just her, but like a lot of Black people who were speaking out about the injustices that were happening. So that was the part that is plugged out of history so that you don't have to talk about it. But think about her beautiful songs. Like, isn't her voice so great? And you're like, but what about the rest of this stuff you didn't talk about? Like, don't look at that. Just, focus on the music. So yeah, it was surprising to me.
Yeah. And what about you?
I was very surprised and very shocked. Very similar to Tamora. I myself had only, and I'm ashamed to say it because I am a singer, and I have studied her album, but I did not know the history. I knew that she was addicted to drugs because of the movie from back in the day, Lady Sings the Blues. So I did know that. But I didn't know that she cared so much about social injustice. And I felt like this movie really highlighted that. And it really kind of shined a light on it when other things that I have seen that tell her story, they really they just brush over that. I mean, it's never been magnified. Like, it gives you so much more clarity when you understand the times that she was living in, and you understand the pressures that she was dealing with as a woman, as a Black woman, as a bisexual Black woman. Nobody talked about that. As a woman that was incarcerated multiple times, all of these different obstacles that she had to overcome, on top of the fact that she had an addictive personality, whether it was men, sex, drugs, all of that. And so I just didn't know the caliber of woman that she was, and how them people played her, okay, while she was alive. And that's how it goes. Like, it's not until you die that now your song is in the Hall of Fame and all of all these wonderful things are said about you. But while she was alive, she was gravely mistreated.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's all under the guise of being un-American. Like, oh, that's not American because you're speaking out against social injustice, when it puts white people in the forefront of, like, some of this stuff is not right in what you're doing, and you try and shut it down. And the part that got me was she had stopped singing the song. The song was born of what she had already seen. She had stopped singing the song, and then she saw it again. And I was like, how frequently was this happening that it was such an occurrence that not only were you like, no, let's not pass no bill or law against it, but that it happened so frequently that you had to try and shut her up from talking about it. Like, it was a problem. And at that part, I got kind of heated. I was like, come on now. Like, come on.
Well, yeah, it's a lot in this movie to make you angry. And I'm just going to go back to how much I didn't know. Like, Lady Sings the Blues. Of course, I heard of Lady Sings the Blues. I've seen, some of the more popular scenes from the movie. I was yesterday years old when I realized that was about the life of Billie Holiday. I had no clue. And like, I didn't know that Lady Sings the Blues was Lady.
Black Heart Revolt.
No, she gets to keep it. She's catching up.
And I'm just doing that for anybody out there that's like me, that just went way over your head. And like, I'm very familiar with the song Strange Fruit, more so by Nina Simone than Billie Holiday, but I never knew the controversy behind it. Like, I never knew that it was, that big of a deal. And that they worked so hard, pretty much her whole career to her dying day, to prevent her from singing this song. And it was a song. It's like, it wasn't an act of violence. It wasn't a, they said it would, I believe the detective or whatever the guy is from the feds at the beginning of the movie, who said drugs and Black people are ruining the moral fiber, of this country.
I'm about to.
He said racial slur, which I won't say because I don't want Facebook to take my video down. But he said racial slur, and racial slur starting with the letter N. Drugs were destroying the moral fiber of the country. And it was just kind of amazing to see, like, when you look at other movies, like Judas and the Black Messiah just came out, stories like this, stories about Dr. King, like so many others, and how the government fought so hard for our stories to be hidden. And, there's like a movement kind of sort of like our stories being told, like particularly in film. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this, because I know some people, I've heard other Black people say, other Black Americans, they feel like there should be an education reform. We should be learning this in school, not necessarily at the movies. And they're kind of tired of the Black struggle movie being that the only movies that are successful, that are about our stories, are stories of struggle. So I kind of wanted to get you guys' thoughts on that, and I'll share as well. But like, where do you stand kind of on that thought?
I'm gonna tell you right now, and we're gonna go back to that Black people and drug thing because there's a whole system based upon that and putting Black people in jail. We're gonna talk about that later. But there is, I think it may be Germany or any of the surrounding countries where they teach the history of Nazi Germany so as not to repeat what happened again. We are probably the only country so in denial and so built on a system of injustice against Black people and keeping Black people criminalized. Like when you say the word criminal, the first thing that pops in your mind is Black person. And then you see someone else's face and you're like, oh, okay. Because it's been woven so deeply into our rhetoric and our society and our news. And it's alluded to, like when Reagan came out and he was like, the war on drugs was really the war on Black people to get them put into prison. That whole rhetoric and history probably would have had less of an impact if we could have seen what was happening, just like what was happening in this past election with that orange a-hole and his whole following, and how all of that is mirroring what happened in freaking Nazi Germany, like verbatim. And we don't tell the history about things so deeply enough because we're so over in the mode of, oh, that was forever ago. That doesn't affect anything today. We don't have to think about that anymore. And I'm like, it's called history for a reason. You need to understand the things. This is American history. This is how this country was built on. Just like when you guys were putting a bounty on indigenous people's heads, so that for everyone that they killed, you got like $5, I think. So they wiped out everyone in California during the gold rush. I don't talk about that either. But there's so much rancid history in the making of this country that people have tried to hide, that when things happen and pop up again, and it seems like, oh, this is brand new, and it's not brand new. It's just repeating itself over and over because no one talks about it. And it's better to kind of demonize a person or a race of people than to be accountable for your part in what happened, and just talk about the history and move forward from it. We're all trying to move forward, and all we're getting from opponents is hiding the shame of it. Or there was this article that came out that someone just gave me about how the New York Times magazine, I think, just printed an article that said, Asian Americans are minorities and they're building themselves up, and how come you can't do that? Like, this should be an example for other races. And there's a whole history into why Asian Americans became acceptable. And by you're saying Asian, you mean Chinese Americans, because we have a trade industry with them and we're trying to make nice. But when you look at other Asian communities, they're still living in poverty. So this rhetoric is still going on to kind of like split the minority groups together, so we don't come together and be like, hey, this is all injustice for all of us. So we're all busy fighting each other, and they're just sitting back like, yep, look at them. It just doesn't make any sense. And all of that is because we don't have a history behind how Asian Americans were treated when they came over here, how Native Americans were treated when they came, like the real history, how Black slaves were treated when they came over, how Irish people were slaves before. And then they were like, we can't find them if they run away. Get some Black people. That'll fix that. Like, none of that history gets shared. And then every year on Black History Month, Tristan, you know this, your kids come home, the little poster, MLK, you're like coloring the picture and talk about how he did so well. And what I really want people to start talking about is what really freaking happened as part of the American history tapestry, because it's what we're kind of living through today. All of that is representative.
They don't even send little speeches and shit home. They don't even do that no more. I was like, y'all don't have a Black history? No. Like, what? What you mean? Like, we cannot depend or rely on the school systems to teach Black history. So I think to answer your question about the question was whether we feel as though it should be taught in schools. Is that right?
Well, your thoughts personally on, I guess, when, these movies come out about Black historical figures.
Oh, we doing that. Okay.
Yeah, that question.
Okay. So, I mean, for me personally, I get mad really easily. I get upset very easily because when I'm watching the movie, I really put myself in the character shoes. And so I can't take too much. It takes me a long time to get through these types of movies, number one, and number two, a lot of times they're just really, really heavy. I will say that I have definitely stated over and over again, I am so sick and tired of seeing Black struggle on the screen. I'm like, when I tell you I'm tired of it, like I'm so tired of it to the point, it was something that came out in the theaters and I don't even know what it was. I don't even know what it was. I blocked it out. It was like last year and I was like, I don't care. I'm tired of seeing first of all, the same stories over and over again. Mm-hmm. And then as if that is the only thing that our people have done is struggle, and that's just not the case. I'm just so sick and tired of seeing that narrative. I'm tired of seeing Black people shown in a negative light. And here's the thing, if you're going to show Black people in a negative light all the time, or if you want to show Black people struggling, let's show some white people struggling. Because it's more of y'all than anybody else. And it's more y'all on food stamps. It's more of y'all in jail. It's more of white people that are also struggling. It's not just Black people. It's not just Hispanic people. It's not just Asian people. It's everybody's struggling. Like everybody. It's a lot of people in poverty. So if you want to talk about struggle, then let's all talk about struggle then. Like don't just point it out in us. What about y'all? Is what I'm saying. Or let's stop with not approving certain movies unless it's some sort of a struggle and you overcame and all of that. Like
or there's a white savior to come and help you because we can't do it ourselves.
I'm so past it. I'm so very past. I'm very, very much so past it.
Yeah, and I get that argument because I think it's a valid point. Like I do agree, of course, that this stuff should be taught as much as any other American history, in schools and out. But like you said, they're not gonna teach Black history the way it needs to be taught. So we have to supplement that, in the lives of really ourselves. And our children. I think
we have to, but what would make time for that? How about we just strip out the Christopher Columbus history if we're not going to tell the real story and put in a real Black history story? That's all. Yeah, making these pretend stories up and sharing them when we can make space for different histories. It's like the same thing where I see the same movie remade several million times. And I'm tired of seeing the same old people like Spider-Man 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, home away. Like, I don't need to see that. Did you know there's an Afghanistani man who built a road through a freaking mountain by himself? I want to hear that story. Robert Smalls did some crazy crap when he's selling a ship through the county, trying to get past the war lines. Like, let me hear that story. That sounds awesome. I don't want to hear about Spider-Man in different dimensions. Can I hear some new stuff? Is it just me? Am I the only one? And the only time something else comes out is Billie Holiday is now on drugs. Now I'm mad again because nobody prepared me for this in my American history class where I should have learned this. Just like my Native American history class, I had to take in college. That should have been taught to everybody in elementary and high school. And we shouldn't have to wait for these movies to come out. So now we're feeling like, well, this is new information. It's another sad movie because we didn't know about it before. I'm tired of all of it.
Exactly. And I think like that's kind of what's happening now is we're figuring out that we have been lied to for decades and centuries. Mm-hmm. But like to me, and yeah, I definitely agree. There's more to Black people than struggle, that's for sure. And I think our struggle has definitely been highlighted. But when these movies come out, and I would say that's kind of the positive side of it, it makes me, and other people actually want to research like what actually happens, because we all know movies take creative license and everything's not 100% accurate because they still have a product to sell at the end of the day. but it kind of makes me want to go dig and find out like what really happened. So like, you know, this movie, the Judas and the Black Messiah, Hidden Figures, like, you know, movies like that, they kind of make me want to, you know, turn to the history books, like, you know, so for that reason, you know, I don't mind, you know.
I can understand that. I get that. I think as well for in the last couple of days, I've kind of powered through a few of these you know, black cinema movies, if you will, and it's been a lot. I feel like this one in particular hit home for me a little bit because she's when she starts off, she's young and she's in the music industry. And because I have had a very small little taste, like a little baby taste of how cruel the music industry can be, and you just get a chance and an opportunity to see how it feels to be a black woman in the industry, and she's just trying, you know, she's basically just trying to make it, and then how they tear you down. Like they build you up to tear you down. It's like the same, you know, it's still the same thing going on today. And part of the reason I think the movie is so relevant is because it's still happening today. They're still trying to tell us to shut up and dribble. There's still Colin Kaepernick still don't have a job. He's blackballed. But then you know, you stop him from or not stop him from kneeling. You can kneel, but you won't have a job. You won't kneel on this field. And then in order to show solidarity in the country, you take the very thing that he used as a sign of peace, and now everybody is doing it, including people in Congress. Nancy Pelosi out here with a kente cloth around her neck, on her knee. Everybody on one knee now, and it's infuriating, but at the same time, it's like, well, no, it's infuriating. It just is. That's the end of that. Period. It's infuriating. And it's still happening today where they want you to shut up and entertain us. Just like the woman said in the interview where she said, well, wouldn't your life be so much easier if you just would behave? Like as if Miss Billie Holiday is a dog. Oh, if you would just behave yourself. And one thing that I loved about this movie is they tried their best, or I'm sorry, I don't know the actress, Andra Day, I don't know how to say her name. But she did such a beautiful job in portraying her and how tough she was. She was really tough. Billie Holiday will fight you. She will fight you.
That was like my favorite part, Tristan. That was my favorite part. I was like, oh,
she will fight a man. She don't care who you are. Like, yes, she was in very toxic, abusive relationships, but she kind of fed off of that. She had like a dark streak, but she was fighting people like in real life, like in bars and clubs, and she would just knock you out. That's just like who she was. So go ahead.
No, I was just saying she was about that life. Go ahead.
Yeah, she was about it. She ain't play no games.
I think it was like in the first 10 minutes, I was like, oh snap, Billie, because I don't know how much you knew about her past before this, but when they usually talk about it, it's like, look at this angelic singing voice. She was so great. And you see her like smoking cigarettes, like rah, rah, rah. I was like, oh snap. I'm into this version of Billie Holiday. Like, I like it. She seems so much realer to me than she had ever seen in anything I'd ever read or heard about her.
Absolutely. Like you said, Kendra, it made me research, like, did she really cuss like that? And yes, she did. She will cuss you out, up and down. Like, she used curse words almost like just regular, like that's just the way she spoke. So even back then in the 40s, or she was born in the 40s or lived through the 40s?
She was born in 1915, so she was an adult in the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
So in the 40s, it would be considered extremely rude for you to curse, let alone a woman to curse. And a lot of people that surrounded themselves with her were not in the least bit offended, because that's just how she was. Like, she went for shock value. She said whatever she wanted to say. She literally wrote an entire book that it was just cussing all through the book.
But Tamora, I want to circle back to something you kind of touched on, and you said we would come back to it, but Blacks and drugs. So take this opportunity to share your thoughts on that.
So
because they use that as a cover to actually bring her in.
So I can't remember specifically all the details of this, so you guys give me some leniency if you know more than I do about dates and eras in time. But once slavery was abolished, white people in the South were real angry about it. I don't know if you thought they were just like, oh, that's cool, goodbye, y'all. But they was kind of angry. And so they were trying to devise a system of keeping slaves with it being legal. And the best way you could do that was to create indentured servitude from Black people by giving them little trumped up charges like, oh my God, you're walking on the wrong side of the street. You shouldn't be drinking from that water fountain. Nope, work off your crime. So the prison system started as kind of a new way of keeping indentured servitude or enslaved people is what it was. So a way to keep Black people enslaved. And so when some of the reform came around of some of the reasons people were getting put into prison, they tried to change it into what seemed very criminal and easy to kind of like push as a message that people would pick up. Like, remember, say no to drugs. And we're like, yes, say no to drugs. That came out of that Bush era or Reagan era, where he wanted this referendum done on crime so he could set this minimum sentencing for prison term for drug use, which is if you are even caught with something very small, that's a minimum of 15 years. 15 years. There's no leniency. And the lawyers that were given to people who were supposed to be on trial were pretty much like, nah, just take the deal. It'll be easier. Like, you can't prove it, and would not give you the full information. Like, if you say that you're guilty of this, whether you're guilty or not, that's 15 solid years. There's no leniency in it. So a bunch of Black people got caught up in this whole, yes, criminalized, criminal, Black people, this is so bad, which if you think about it now, you think of places like Sweden or Norway, where, yeah, they have a drug problem, but they also have things that counteract drugs so that you're no longer addicted to it. It's pretty easy to get, pretty easy to pass it around. It's not very criminal if you're doing drugs. But this system kind of works off of that. And how do you get Black people back into the slave mentality? Pick them up for drugs. When they were doing raids, comparable raids, the police were sent to, I think Seattle was one of the places where more white people than Black people were dealing drugs, because when you deal drugs, white people don't come to Black people for drugs. They go to their friends for drugs out in the suburbs. And there are no crackdowns or stings out there, but in Black neighborhoods, there's tons of them. And white people got very lenient sentences. This was going on for a very long time, so it got noticed, and I think there was a Title 13 Supreme Court ruling around it, where, if you read the new Jim Crow book, it talks about this, where they have effectively shut down anything that allows you to use racism or prejudice as a valid reason for why you're being imprisoned or were targeted by police. So you effectively can never use that offense again in this country. It's not a thing. So what happens now? People keep going into jail. People keep going into jail. So when people talk about getting hard on crime, when I said criminals and your first thing in your mind is Black people, it's because that's what that's shown. And so a lot of people can get behind criminalize Black people, put them in jail. Oh my God, they're doing drugs, when drugs are not a big freaking deal. White people do drugs all the time. They smoke weed all the time. They don't go to jail for it. We go to jail for it. So it's a new enslavement terminology. So when you're talking about Billie Holiday and they wanted her to stop singing the song, they didn't give a care that she was doing whatever she was doing. They didn't want her to sing the song. What's the easiest way to get rid of her? Ooh, she's doing drugs. That's illegal. Singing that song's not illegal, but doing drugs, that's illegal. That's criminal. It's a shame that she's on drugs. We got to put her in jail, and that also shuts her up. And that happens a lot. And people just brush it off because when you think drugs are bad, just like you're taught to learn that mental illness is bad. We need to get it off the street. You're not taught to think drug use, mental illness, those are things that can be solved. Let's fix it and get rid of that problem. Why are we throwing people in jail for it? Doesn't make any sense. You're taught to learn like those things are things that are jailable offenses. Those are usually Black people. Sorry, Black people, off to jail you go. And then the prison systems like this with their private institution raking in this money off of enslaved Black people. So new prison system, hello, welcome.
Yeah, and I think that's like probably the sad part about it is we watch these movies that are referencing periods before we were even alive. You know, all of us that are, you know, currently on this live, but it's still relevant today.
Like, it's happening today. It ain't
happening today. Strange Fruit is still relevant today. It's just that and some people still lynch the same way, let's be clear, but it's just lynching looks different.
No, somebody got lynched last year. 2 people literally got lynched.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it still happens in the way we know it, but there are new ways in which they are going about lynching. Yeah. And so it's kind of sad that you can listen to these old interviews, you can watch these old movies, and it's not a thing of the past. It's like it's still happening today. And I think that's just the part that's so like frustrating.
It is. It's really disheartening. I mean, you look at that was in the 40s. You know, she died in 59. So you're looking at the 40s and the 50s, around the time that the Civil War was the Civil Rights Movement was getting ready to happen. And just like imagine the climate of, you know, everything that she's doing and everything that she's going through, everything that she's seeing, you know, the fear that must have been in her mind when she's on tour and she has to sing in the South, and then she sees a lynching. She experiences racism on a consistent basis. They don't care who she is. You know, you're still Black at the end of the day. Like, it is what it is. So you have that, and that's going on in the 40s. And then you fast forward to now. So if she's witnessing a lynching in the 40s and the 50s, and then you fast forward 70, 80 years later, and they still haven't passed an anti-lynching bill yet. Not to mention when they did try to pass it, I don't know if it was I feel like it went to the Senate or something, but there were actually 4 people that voted against it. Who is wanting people to be lynched? Right. So when this is done, I'm going to go see who it was. We need to know. We need to know why. What is going on? Why is that something that you?
Right.
Oh, no, we want to keep on lynching. We don't want you to take that from us. Like, is that? And these are the sick ideologies that our country has been built off of, to make you think that that's American. And if you somehow remove those things, that you're taking our history from us. Mm-hmm. You're taking the American experience, American culture. You're trying to erase American culture. And I think it's really sarcastically funny that y'all want to talk about when we're taking Confederate statues down, that it's erasing American history. Well, you know what? Y'all been erasing Black history for years. You've been erasing American history. I'm more American than half of these white people. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, Black people been here longer than some of the white people that's been here.
Mm-hmm.
you want to tell the truth and you want to talk about our history, American history being altered and American history being erased, y'all been erasing American history by whitewashing it. That's how American history has been being erased for years, and it's still going on today.
It was so bad that when the colonials came over here, they wiped out all the Native American history, so that generations later, when they were trying to recreate this for historical perspective, they didn't have anything to go to because it was illegal to talk about that history. Like, it's systematically just wiping and erasing the things that aren't preferred, not approved, and then recoloring it the way you think it's supposed to be. Oh, Christopher Columbus came over. It was so great. No, he came over and he killed and murdered a bunch of people, and he was a moron. He was bad at his job.
All in the wrong place.
I don't talk about him anymore.
Bad at his job.
You didn't even know where he was going.
He didn't know where he was at.
Bringing all your disease over, and you lost your disease, you're on the ship. Like, just stop. And I don't want to talk about him anymore. I don't want to talk about any more stupid rhetoric history. I want to talk about American history, from Native Americans to when the Spaniards came through here and wiped out a bunch of people, because that was a part of it too, to when it got colonized and they wiped out a bunch of people. Not just Trail of Tears, that was so sad, but then they gave us corn and we were happy. Like, I don't want to hear that history anymore. I want history so we can move on from it, and then we won't have these sob stories like, oh my God, I didn't know Lady Billie Holiday was going through all this, or I didn't know that blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't want to hear about it in a sad story that only Black people are putting out. I want to hear it in my elementary school. I want to hear it in my high school. I don't want to wait until I get to college and then maybe stumble upon the course and be like, this sounds interesting, and then be horrified about all the stuff that I didn't know. This stuff should be taught at every school. And I know that there is a part of us where we're like, well, some of that history we should share, but it should be a part of this core system, this educational system that is taught from elementary school all the way up through college, because it is American history. Whether you like what happened or you didn't, we can't move on from it because we keep trying to hide what happened. And then you have these idiots like the guy at the New York Times putting out articles that are separating the minorities by saying Asian Americans are better than Black people. What are y'all gonna do about it? Y'all better fight. And then we out here fighting each other when really the target should be, hey, you guys are making these history books and you don't want to let us be in it. You're the problem. Let's erase the problem and replace it with the right people who get the right education to the right folks. So that's how I feel about it. I feel a lot of ways, but that's just one of the ways.
And I think it speaks a lot to how valuable the information is as to why they want to keep it from us. So there always seems to be this underlying idea of this country or this way of life that someone is trying to protect. Like, even to this day, I'll say certain Trump supporters, how they felt like, that they're quote unquote losing the country, or their way of life is being threatened.
Congratulations, good.
And even with like the silencing or the attempt to silence, Billie Holiday, so many others, so that people's eyes won't be opened. And it's right. Like, you're keeping this information from me for some reason, because again, it threatens life as you know it. So life currently must be great for you. You don't want it to be great for me. And so you're trying to remove the tools for us to be great together.
Do you think if anyone understood the transition from abolishing slavery to how the prison system works, that prison system will still be intact the way it is, or people would support the police like they do? That would have fallen a long time ago. But if you don't hear about it from the beginning, you don't think like, hey, this doesn't seem right. What do you mean we're just taking these people and putting them in jail? Like, it changes the whole story and how you're supported. So it's easier to hide that and have us sitting here with pieces of the information and being like, when a Black person's like, no, this is racist. And you're like, yeah, everything's racist. Like, it's easier to do that than to just tell the history of it and expose who you really are and what this country really is. We are not the greatest country right now because we are so torn apart over the basic human fundamentals that everyone should have, from healthcare to equality or equity in job searching to prison terms to mental health issues. Like, all of that stuff should be equal across the board for everybody. Everyone should have a chance, to the point where someone wants to raise the minimum wage to $15 and you start freaking out because that's almost as much as I make. Then ask for more money. People need to live and support their family. Why are we trying to fight each other and nobody's fighting the man over here, like fanning out his money, like, fight, little peasants, good luck. Like, you're not fighting this dude, you fighting the other poor people, and both of y'all are trying to come up. It is such a fucked up system. I'm sorry, it is. It's so jacked up that we don't stand back and look at it because we don't have the history behind what has actually happened to have an intelligent conversation and to move forward and make the right decisions for this country so we can actually be an exceptional freaking country. And right now we're not exceptional. We're like a laughing stock to everybody
in the world, laughing at us. And rightfully so, because this stuff is, the stuff that's going on today is, you know, absolutely foolish. It's foolish, and it's almost, you know, unbelievable and unreal, some of the things that are still going on. You know, we have the most technology that, you know, we've ever had. We have access to more information than we ever have, and we just seem to be getting dumber.
When you're not taught to be smart, you use your technology to be like, why vaccines are bad. They're bad, everybody. Like, you don't have any knowledge or information because it's not easily accessible, which should also be a human right. Everyone should have access to free education. Or else we wouldn't be this freaking stupid.
And healthcare.
Healthcare as well.
Okay. Well, you know, again, it speaks to the power of, and we were talking about this last night, just the power of art, and how it really can be used to kind of, you know, bring about change. We see it, you know, in the life of Billie Holiday, how people fought so hard to keep her from singing a song because the song was powerful. And the thing about the arts is,
think about Sam Cooke, think about Malcolm X at that time, think about Muhammad Ali at the time, think about Martin Luther King at the time, all people that needed to be shut up because they are impacting the Black community, and so they're trying to use the platform to speak to an issue that we like the system that's happening. We like the way that things are going. And if Black people start to recognize and come together and realize what's going on, and they actually join in unity, our system's gonna fall, just like Tamora was saying and just like you were saying. So they like what's in place. We have to shut all of that down. We will let you sing as long as you sing.
Well, we want
to. And now today is
shine.
It's all about twerking and this and this and that. As long as you're doing that, you're good to go. But the moment that you take a cap, you know, you take a knee, we got a problem now. Because your job is to catch this football. It's not to speak on the political and social injustices that your people are going through. That's not your job.
Did anyone ever see in the movie they had a list of other Black people they were targeting? Did they ever focus in on who the other Black people were?
I didn't notice that.
But I didn't see any names on her.
Well, you know, sure believe.
I know from just recently getting into these movies and documentaries, like the FBI was literally just harassing Black folks that were, you know, Black celebrities that had something to actually say. And I think Kendra had brought up, I think we were talking last night about NWA, you know. Now, Tamora, you may be able to tap a little bit more into that because I was a peanut at the time. But I can remember just like a little bit of when gangster rap came out. I mean, it was pretty I
Some
mean,
of it was really gritty, and then some of it was really like, I mean, I still listen to Dope Man. That's how I learned about drugs and how not to get on them. I was like, oh, okay, this is great. So it wasn't a bad thing to me. It's just the lyrics were not Eurocentric. So they were not really approved. They were talking about real life and what was happening. And then I don't know if you guys have seen the NWA movie, which was pretty good. It made me appreciate Ice Cube a lot. Like, I had his album after he left NWA, and it's really good. It's not just today was a good day, but he does a lot of like, I call it militant black rap, and it's really good and it's super insightful. And of course you can't have that. Of course you can't. But what you can do is you can demonize it and tell people how bad it is, because it's not very American. Like, you're not talking about milkshakes at the bar. You're talking about these motherfuckers came in, these white devils, and it don't sound really good. It doesn't make you look good. So how do we shut that down? Criminalize it, demonize it, tell the parents it's bad. They're talking about drugs. Oh my God, there's a blunt leaf, and then shut it all down. So yeah, it was another forum. There's a lot of forums, and it's funny because not just black rappers do it. You have to find the right artist. System of a Down does it too, and they talk about a lot of things. They're Armenian, but they are an American rock group, and they talk about living in America. And if you listen to a lot of their songs, they'll talk about how like the criminalized prison system and how we kind of jockey for position. Like, a lot of their rhymes and raps are about like how jacked up it is over here and how we are just fine with it. But that kind of music and platform is okay depending on who's coming from. But things like NWA or Billie Holiday singing about strange fruit. And I knew I heard the song before. It was Nina Simone, Kendra, so I did hear it before. I didn't hear it from Billie. But those songs were demonized and criminalized, because how dare you have an opinion about how we're treating you and make us look bad, because you're actually pointing the finger at us and telling us what the problem is. Like, I think that's where it comes to the difference between those two. And I agree with you. Like, artistry, from sports to public speaking, singing, acting, when you're putting out movies about the Black experience, like what's his name from oh my God, I'm gonna miss it. Who's making all the Black like thriller horror movies? Help me.
Peel.
Yeah, I think that's him. And I think the reason he started making movies is because he was like, put more Black people in your movies in different roles, so they're not in these struggle roles. And people were like, you want your own movie, then make it. And put all the Black people you want in it. All right, he did it, and they were like, this is so racist. There's not enough white people in it. He's like, you told me to do it, and that's what I did. And now they're so popular. So that format and that forum is powerful, which is why people are trying to shut it down. There's more leniency now because there's more artistic freedom, but there are still like stigma against Black rap, mumble rappers, and all they talk about is shaking booties and blah, 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 blah. And everyone passes over anything that has any substance to it under the guise of all Black music is just like this, and there's nothing different in it.
And at this point, to be honest with you, I don't really care what anybody else is saying about Black, like Black music. Like, we have so many different layers to us. And when I'm ready to turn up, you know what I'm saying? Yes, I'm going to listen to Cardi, and I'm going to listen to Megan Thee Stallion, and I'm going to listen to whoever else. Like, there's certain music that I'm going to listen to when I feel like I want to, I don't know. I might be in the mood to listen to Nas. I may be in the mood to listen to Jay-Z. I might be feeling Kanye today. I may be feeling Biggie. I might be feeling like I want to shoot somebody. Like, I might put on my old, Bone Thugs and Harmony, Crazy Bone. Like we have so many different layers to our music. So and it kind of reflects who we are as a people. And it's the same thing with anything that we touch. There's so many different layers to us. And you know what? I don't care what anybody else, what white folks are saying or whoever is saying that's negative about, oh, all they want to talk about is this and that. Well, you know what? Then you don't have to, you can turn it off. You could go, You don't
They're
have
not.
to
They're not listening to it in the car on the way to work because that's what I do.
And they listen to it the most. That's when you go to these concerts, even today, it's mostly.
I truly believe that music, it's so powerful. You know, it's it's repetitive. You continue, you sing it, and it almost becomes a mantra. You know what I mean? Which is why you should be careful what you're listening to. But at the same time, you have the powers that be that know that. Because if they didn't, they wouldn't have been trying to stop it since Miss Billie Holiday. You understand? They understand the power of music. They understand the power of giving someone a platform and allowing them to go. Like, I think it's interesting that they think that we're insignificant and it doesn't matter. It's nothing. Or maybe are we viewing ourselves as insignificant and not impactful, which is why we don't speak up more. But it's never a problem until you're going against the grain. And now they the ones that make a big deal about it. Y'all the ones made a big deal about NW. If you just would have let us just buy the album, would nobody even been tripping. But you the one was tripping, so now we got to look more into it. Like it keep backfiring on you. Stop freaking out. Don't freak out about it. You just let it happen. Let it happen. Let the racism be erased.
There's a song by Slayer called "Raining Blood," talking about blood raining from the sky, and it's one of my jams. I actually really like it a lot. And no, that's denied that. I mean, I'm sure somebody's like, I'm probably gonna be listening to that rock and roll. But there's not a big movement against it, like, oh, look at how this is turning the children against there's none of that. It's only when things that
why is it raining blood though? What's happening?
I want you to listen to it. It is it's a super popular Slayer song, apparently. I heard it by playing Guitar Hero because I like video games. And I listened to it on my radio and I was like, oh, this is the jam. It's got like a lot of bass and a cool like guitar line. You know how we play guitar in our family? Like that's just our thing.
I'm just trying to find out why the sky is raining blood.
He will tell you. I don't know.
Listen to the song, we're gonna tell.
I don't know. I don't know. But those songs go on and things come up with those songs like play it backwards. It's gonna be satanic. And there's not a real big push against those like it is for all the different types of rap or gangster rap or whatever is coming out.
It do sound satanic when you play it backwards. Not like Missy Elliott stuff. Missy Elliott stuff don't sound satanic when you play it backwards.
It say real words.
I heard music backwards. I only heard it for work it. It backwards for itself.
But this was great, and I loved a lot of things that you all just said, like the power of art and the reach, especially today, is crazy. Like, I mean, people are listening to music internationally anyway, like even before the internet, but now, like with the internet, I mean, you really don't have to wait for anybody to put you on. Right. So I'm kind of new, like I'm tired of us trying to get in these rooms. We just gonna do it ourselves. And that's what we've been doing. And we've been doing that. Once we're successful, then you will try to get back in and overtake it or steal it.
And then what happens. Or burn it down.
Call it ain't for us by you. No, it ain't ours no more.
Right. So that's one of the things I love about today. Like you can literally put yourself on. If you want to make a TV show, if you want to make a movie, you can shoot it on your iPhone and upload it to YouTube, and it may hit.
That's right.
It may be billions of people watching it. Like you don't have to wait for I'm gonna say some rich white man with money.
You sure don't.
Make your dream. True.
I would encourage anyone who is watching this, anyone who's watching the replay, to go forward and just express yourself artistically, and don't allow barriers or anything to keep you from doing that. Don't allow the fact that you know, maybe you want a record deal or whatever the case may be. And in these days and times, to be quite honest with you, it's better to be an independent artist. However, I understand that's not everybody's desire. So you know what? Just do you. Like, just go ahead and just do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be, you know, 100% the best quality or whatever. Just start and just try and enjoy it. Enjoy whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's playing the guitar, whether it's singing, whether it's playing basketball, like whatever you're doing, just enjoy yourself because you only have one life to live. And I just want to say, because I know we're probably about to wrap up, but I absolutely love the fact that this movie has sparked such a wonderfully layered conversation, just like Miss Billie Holiday. I just absolutely love the fact that, you know, she's been gone for goodness, you know, since 59, and we're still talking about her. Her song is still relevant. And as much as they wanted her to shut up, she wouldn't shut up. And we're still, the song is, and it's a poem, and it's a, you know, and people are redoing it, and people are putting, you know, little sound bites in. The song is in it of itself will never die. The message will never die. And I just love the fact that, you know, I feel like our generation, like we are the ones that are carrying the torch. And we'll make sure that the message doesn't die, and that, you know, moving forward, that people know not just the struggles of our people, not just the struggles, but also the triumphs, because Miss Billie Holiday was extremely triumphant. If you look at how, if you think all of that she went through was crazy and traumatic, but do y'all know that she was making $1,000 a week? See, some of y'all ain't making that today. She was making $1,000 a week in the 40s. Hello? So yeah, while there were a lot of struggles, but man, can we talk about she was rich? I mean, she was just walking through the street with like straight fur, like just all the time.
You know how Vogue magazine in her 2 dresses.
There was one thing, she was walking down the street with some cat-eye glasses. I was like, ooh, that is hot. I wear that today. And that
didn't even get into the fashion, honey. She was clean.
Every day. Everywhere she went.
Everywhere
I want to encourage all of you, while you're out there putting out your own thing, because there are kids in Nigeria who are filming their own videos. They're kind of comical, but they're doing it and putting out full movies and getting super popular on YouTube. Like, you can do whatever you need to do, find your own format and your own forum for it. But while you're doing that, get some education in you and read a book, or don't read it. Listen to it on audio tape. Everything comes on Google Play and they will read it to you, or Audible, or however. Don't do Audible. They're too much money. But Google Play, get yourself an audio book.
Amazon Audible robbed me.
Don't. Okay. I said not Audible. Don't do it. But I would suggest you read Killing the Black Body, The New Jim Crow, How to Be Black, which is my favorite one. There's some other ones too, but start somewhere. Just start listening to something and getting some education, because no one else is going to do it for you. And you shouldn't have to wait for these movies to come out or for you to see something in the news because someone died the same way someone did back in the 40s. Like, you shouldn't have to wait for that to understand and see what's happening in this country and where we need to be improving, so that when you're speaking and having these conversations and becoming advocates or amplifying what we need to amplify, that you have that education behind you and you can spit those facts. Because the one thing that people like to do is tell you to prove it. They don't believe it. Well, how do you know? Maybe it wasn't that. And you can state those facts. So get that education behind you. Just listen to your Audible while you're cleaning your house or doing your dishes or driving that long drive to wherever you're going to, and just take your time and listen and let somebody tell you the story.
That's right. Check your local library. I get audiobooks for free all the time from my local library. You ain't got to spend no money.
I think it's Overdrive or something has free books, audiobooks, but you can just Google free audiobooks.
Yeah. You can, one app that I actually use is Overdrive, and it asks for your library card number. So you put your library card number in, and then it gives you thousands of books for free. So you don't even have to purchase the books from Amazon. You literally have digital books. Everybody has a phone.
Please don't purchase your book from Amazon. If you can help it, go to the library or Google Play and get your download it.
I don't have it at the library.
No excuses. There are no excuses.
There isn't. At this phase, we need to be educating each other and not waiting for somebody to hand deliver the education for us.
Because we did that and it ain't happening, and we still shocked and surprised today. So you got to do it yourself.
Well, thank you guys. This was great. I enjoyed the conversation, and I will say congratulations to Andra Day. She won a Golden Globe today for her.
Did. Congratulations, girl. Congratulations. You did that. She did that. She did. She killed that role.
She did.
She did. So congratulations to her. I want to thank you all for joining me tonight as my, lovely guest. The conversation was fantastic. Thank you to anybody who's watching, and we will see you on the next edition, and have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.